Welcome to the Ruckus Associate SmartZone Administrator Demonstration Series for the SmartZone OS 5 release. In this series of demonstrations, we'll show you the functionality of SmartZone OS 5, along with the basic configuration of many aspects of the controller. SmartZone OS 5 is the network controller operating system that is available on SmartZone 100 and SmartZone 300 hardware platforms, and, as we'll be discussing here, the Virtual SmartZone Network Controller platform. This presentation describes the configuration of domains, subdomains, partner domains, and domain administration for the Ruckus Virtual SmartZone high-scale network controllers running SmartZone OS 5. In this presentation, you'll learn about SmartZone domains and the hierarchy in which they operate, and SmartZone domain administration and the options and capabilities at various levels of the domain hierarchy. Let's first start with a quick overview of the high-scale domain hierarchy. You start with the system domain. The system domain is the root domain that's created during the controller setup. As a system administrator, you'll log into the system domain with full system administrator rights. On a newly built SmartZone high-scale controller, you'll see only the default system domain. Subdomains are created in order to define an administration boundary. You can create subdomains and assign rights to other administrators to access and manage subdomains. Subdomains will inherit system domain settings. The partner domain is similar to the subdomain, but unlike subdomains, partner domains have some system settings configurable at the partner domain level. In addition to that, a partner domain can contain multiple subdomains as well. As an administrator of a partner domain, you can delegate administration of partner subdomains to designated administrators, some of whom may be outside your organization. This model is really popular for managed service providers who need their own partner domain on your controller. You'll learn how to provide domain access to additional administrators later in this presentation. Once these subdomains have been created, you can create zones. Zones determine how access points will be configured. You can learn more about zones by viewing the presentation on zone configuration that's part of this demonstration series. Now on the Essentials controller, there's only the system domain. This is the single administration boundary on the entire controller. You can provide administrative access to different levels and rights to administrators to perform tasks within a domain. As with the high-scale controller, you can still create zones. Again, simplistically, zones are just groupings of access points. And again, you can learn more about zones by watching the zone configuration presentation in this demonstration series. Let's get started by logging in to a newly built Virtual SmartZone high-scale network controller. So once we log in here, you can see down here that we're running version 5.0.0.0.675. This is the initial release of the Virtual SmartZone OS 5 release of the controller. Now, domains and subdomains are managed under the Access Points configuration menu here. So we'll click on that, and I'll show you that by default on a newly built high-scale controller, all you'll see is the system domain and the staging zone. These are the only ones that are automatically created for you during setup. The staging zone is used for access point registration. So let's go ahead and create our first subdomain. We do this, remember system level is the only domain that exists right now. It's the top level domain for the entire SmartZone system. We click the plus sign up here to create a new domain, zone, or group. So we're going to create a domain. We'll just call this the Team1 domain. This is just a domain that's underneath the system domain, but not its own partner. A partner domain would be specified by toggling this button here. So now we have a domain underneath the system domain, and it's denoted by a D in this square here. So D stands for domain, Z is for zones, and let's go ahead and create us a partner domain as well. We'll call it Partner X, and this will be a partner domain. So this domain can be managed by a separate partner. So by toggling that switch, we make this a partner domain. We'll go ahead and click OK here. And as we see that one's also denoted with a D, but also an admin character to show that it's a separate administrative domain. Now, underneath this domain, there's nothing there yet, but if we wanted to create subdomains under the partner domain, we simply click the plus sign with the partner domain highlighted, click the plus sign, and create a new domain. Now when we see this, and we've created this, now when we click on this plus sign next to Partner X, we have a Partner X domain. And so underneath this domain, we could start creating zones, which are collections of access points for us to manage. So now that we have our subdomains and partner domains set up here, let me show you some of the options you have when you click on these domains themselves. You've got some options up here. You have an option to configure the selected domain, which really just allows you to change the name of the domain is really the only option you have available right now. You can clone the domain, so you can make an exact copy of it, and you can delete the domain by selecting here. You can also select this option and have some options to create zones, which we haven't really talked about yet, or you can move the domain within the partner domain if it's a partner domain. This domain here is a system domain, and when we click the move option, we can only move within the system domain, but we can't move into the partner domain because it's a separate administrative boundary. Now that these subdomains and partner domains have been created, it's time to start thinking about how they're going to be managed. It's impractical for a single administrator to manage all aspects of the controller administration, especially with these different domains. Now, partner domains, of course, are going to be managed by those partners, and you're going to create administrative boundaries for them, but you can also set administrative boundaries within the system domain for these different domains you create. So some of the things you want to think about when you're setting up these administrative boundaries is to think about what permissions do you want to assign? Basically, how much power do you want to grant an administrator when logging into the controller? Is it enough for them just to view things, or do you want them to be able to edit some of the settings too? Then you want to think about which resources you want to allow access. There are many areas within the controller that are available to an administrator, so you should only give access to the areas that are needed. Then which domain are you giving them access to? Is it for the system domain or partner domain? And then you want to think about which administrators, so which individuals do you want to give those rights to. So once you've got all those things figured out, then we can start configuring administrative access. So let's do that now. So administrators are configured under Administration and Admins and Roles. Once here, you'll see tabs for Groups, Administrators, AAA, Access Control Lists, and Account Security. So in order to assign administrative access, we first have to decide which administrators we want to give access to. Administrator accounts can be stored in two locations: on the SmartZone Network Controller's internal user database, or in an account held on an external AAA server. Here I'm going to show you how to grant access to an administrator defined in the local database. So admins can be configured in the Administrator tab over here. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now we can create admins at the system domain or to partner level. If we had multiple partner domains configured, they'd all be listed here, and we can configure administrators for each of those separate partner domains. But let's start by configuring a system domain administrator with some limited capabilities. We'll call this one Team 1 AP Admin. Now I just really have to provide the account name and the passwords. You can give it a real name that makes it easier to recognize for you, and a phone number, email address, and job title as well if you prefer. We're just going to provide the bare essentials here. Click OK. And now we see it here. We have a Team 1 AP admin. It's managed by the system, and it's unlocked at this point. So we can lock, unlock, and do some things with these different accounts as the administrator if we wanted to. But let's go ahead and create another admin under the partner domain. So we'll call this Partner X Admin. Give it the password, and we are good to go. So now we have Partner Admin. Now notice when the partner is highlighted, we only see the admins associated with the partner domain. Under the system domain, we see all admins created because all things fall under the system domain. So now we have the Partner X admin managed by Partner X, and a Team 1 AP admin that's managed by the system. So now that we have our admin accounts, we can grant administrative access to the controller, and we do this by creating groups. So over here at the Groups tab, this is where we can start creating groups that allow privileges to those administrators we just created. So in this demonstration, I'm going to configure two different groups for you, one under the system domain and one under the partner domain, just to show you some of the things that we'll see when we're creating them. We do this by clicking the Create button. And when we click the Create button, we've got a strictly defined workflow that's pretty easy to follow as well that helps you to create this user group. And it asks those questions that we asked earlier is, permissions. This is going to define what rights the administrator will have once they're logged in. The resource will define where the rights will be applied, so what things will be visible to them when they log in as an administrator and what can they view, what can they edit, those kinds of things. The domain specifies the domain which you're assigning those administrative rights and what access they have. And administrators define which administrators you're going to assign to this group who are able to perform the functions we've just defined. And then you'll get a summary that shows you everything that you selected to make sure everything's right. And then you'll say OK, and you'll be good to go, and your group will be all set. So this first group is in the system domain. This is going to be the one I'm going to use for that Team 1 AP Admin administrator I created earlier. So let's go ahead and get in here and name this. This is going to be System AP Admin. Actually, it's going to be for a specific domain, so it probably makes sense to name it for the domain. Team 1 AP Admin. The permissions, this tells us which permission level and what access they're going to have. Each of these is defined and has different access levels. So when you can pick one of these options based on what you want to allow these group of users to do, you're going to pick from this list. Now, each one of these comes with different capabilities, and I'll just show you real quickly. If I select AP Admin and click Next, I'll see which resources are available. These are here when you select one of those pre-selected options. These options are not modifiable, so they have access to APs, WLANs, and users, devices, and applications. So if we go back, we can change this to another function. Let's say network administration. If we click Next here, we can see which resources they have. They have read access to the SmartZone controller, full access to APs, full access to WLANs, full access to users, devices, and applications, and full access for ICX switch management. Here we have a table showing all the capabilities based on the permissions for each of these group options. So if you want to pause the video right here, you can take a look at what the capabilities will be for any permission that you happen to grant to a group on the SmartZone network controller. Now we also have the option for a custom. Now custom lets you completely customize what you want to allow this particular group of administrators to be able to do. So we click Next here, and all of the options are available here. So we can take SmartZone, move it over here. Let's say we only want ICX switch, and then we can change the access level. So we can change this just to read only and full access. So this administrator, this administrative group, and administrators that fall into this group would only have read access to the controller, but full access to ICX switch functionality. But let's go ahead and go back. This was an AP admin, so we're going to go ahead and select AP admin. We'll click Next. The resources are here. They're pre-populated. They can't be modified. We click Next, and we define which domain we want to allow this particular group to be able to manage. So this is just going to be the Team 1 domain. Click the arrow to move it over to this side, and now we can click Next. Then who do we want to do this? Now we have multiple administrators, but we only have one administrator in the system domain, and that's this Team 1 AP admin. We'll click Next. We'll get a review screen here, and we've got our name. If we'd put in a description, it'd be here. We've given it the AP admin permission, and here's a definition of what those permissions are. We can modify all of these options here. We can modify WLAN options here, and we can read user, device, and app options. So we can only look at those. And the user we're allowing access to this is the Team 1 AP admin that we created as an administrator earlier. Click OK, and we're all set. So now that's a system level administrative group that we've just created, and we can have several different system admins put into that group, and we can modify that group later by highlighting the group, clicking Configure, and it'll walk us back through this process. And let's say we added more administrators, we would go through this process, moving next sequentially through these menus. and selecting any new administrators that are populated in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a partner group now. Partner groups are groups of managers within the partner domain only, so they don't get to do anything really within the overall system domain, just within their partner domain, and a few system type functions. So let's go ahead and create that. So again, we have our permissions. We're just going to name this group, we're just going to call it Partner X Admins, and we are going to give them let's give them super admin for the entire partner domain. So let's go ahead and click next. So we see here the resources they have: full access to SmartZone configurations, APs, WLANs, user devices, apps, admin, and ICX switch. Which domain do we want them to have access to? Well, we only want to have them in the partner domain. And notice that in this list, all we have is the managed domain here, and then the domain that was created within that managed partner space. So this is the only one we can select. Move this over, and now we have this domain selected as where we can apply our management capabilities. Now, which administrators do we want? Again, we only have a list of the administrators we created within this partner domain that are listed for us here. We'll say next, and then we'll get to take a look at what this Partner X Admins group allows them to do. They have super add permission, so they can full access to SmartZone, system settings that are available, events and alarms, and northbound interfaces. Under APs, they've got full access, WLAN full access, user device and application full access for admin to create subdomains, administrators, and administrative groups within this partner domain, and full access for ICX switches. And the user is currently the only user we've created in this domain, called the Partner X admin. So now we see here we've got our group, our Partner X Admins group. It's managed by Partner X. It's in the Partner X domain. It's super admin, and it has access to all these resources, which this is a nice little display to quickly show you the different groups that are available. Again, if we click on the system domain, we see all of them. If we click on the partner domain, we only see the ones within that domain. Now let's go ahead and log out here and log in with some of these different users and see how things look and how they change for us. So just a couple things to note. There are some differences in how you log in based on what domain you're in. If you're in the system domain, you simply need to put in a username here. So our Team1 AP admin, that's all we have to put in is Team1 AP admin and the password. And we come up here with Team1 AP admin capabilities. And as you can see, we're limited in system settings. We can really just look at some of these system settings. We have read-only access to those. And for access points, this is where we actually have some capabilities of moving things. So if there were APs listed here, we could move an AP from the staging zone into our Team1 domain. I don't have any APs here right now, but it just shows how much visibility these different administrative accounts has, and just the differences in the login. Of course, you can see up here in the top left who I have logged in. This is the Team1 AP admin. You can't see the whole string there, but we're logged in using that account, and we see here that this menu on the left has a much shorter set of tabs that are available for me to look through as an AP admin on this system. And notice I do not see anywhere in here the partner domain. All I see is system domain information. I do not see that partner domain that we know is created here, that we created earlier. So let's go ahead and log out of this one, and let's log into our partner domain. So when we do a partner login, we have to do at the name of the managed by partner domain that our subdomains are created under. And that was Partner X. So we have our Partner X admin at Partner X, and we put in our password. And log in. And once we're in here, let's take a look at what we can see. So first you'll notice we have a nice long list of capabilities here of different tabs that are available for configurable options for us. But when you look, you see all we do see the system domain, but we can only see our partner domains underneath it. So we don't see the team one domain that we created on the other one. We only see domains, subdomains that are created under our partner domain. And these are ours to manage because we have super user access for it. Now under the System tab, we have a few options here that are available to us. We can configure northbound interface, FTP servers. We can do different AP settings. But notice when we click on these, we can't do anything with number allocation unless it's enabled at the admin level of the system domain. So we can't really turn this on, and it would only work for us if it were turned on by a upper level administrator. Clicking on maps, we can create maps under our domain, but under our domain only. Templates. Templates apply the same rules. With templates, we can't configure or create anything under the system domain, but as soon as I select my partner domain, I can create zone templates or WLAN templates. So the capabilities show in the menus here of what you're capable of doing and what you're capable of managing, and these are things that are within your administrative boundaries. So when we do a partner domain, you're bound to only manage things within your partner domain along with some system settings, but those are really only particular to your domain and ideally will not affect any of the other subdomains or partner domains that exist within the same SmartZone network controller. So let's go ahead and log back out of this and log in with our real admin login, our global admin login, and take a look at some of the other options available to us. So back here at the Administration tab, okay, so instead of using a local administrator database, administrators can be authenticated against an external AAA server. That can be a Radius or a TACACS Plus server. So let's go ahead and take a look at that configuration here. We do that by clicking the Create button. We can do, again, Radius or TACACS Plus. Let's go ahead and just set this one up real quick. We've got our Radius server is what I'm going to use here. The realm is Radius. Now I can also configure a backup Radius server, so I can configure a primary and a secondary, but let's go ahead and just do a primary. So we'll put in our shared secret and confirm it, and we'll click OK. So once we click OK, we'll be populated with this Radius server, and it has a nice feature that allows you to go ahead and test AAA. So you get a summary down here as soon as you click on it, and you can click this Test AAA button. Now I've created an account on this server, so I can use this for testing. So vsz-test is the username I created, just plugged in the password and test. And primary server success. So we get a message here showing that we've successfully communicated to our Radius server and authenticated a test user on there. So now what you do is go ahead and create all those administrative users on your AAA server and use that to authenticate those users. But that's another step that we won't be covering in this particular demonstration. Now this next tab over here on Access Control List allows us to control access to the CLI and SSH access to the SmartZone network controller. So we can set up access control to the management interface by clicking Enable. And when we do that, we can create an interface that we're going to allow to have access control to this device. So we'll give this a name, CLI access, and we can give it a single IP address that we're going to allow management access control. We can give it an IP range with a starting IP address and ending IP address, or just an entire network subnet. And this is going to be the source address coming in to hit the management interface of this SmartZone network controller. We'll go ahead and cancel this and disable it, but that's how you would enable that functionality. And last but not least, we have account security. Under account security, we have a couple options. We can set up some different security options for what we require for someone to log in and authenticate to the SmartZone network controller. So we can enable CAPTCHAs. So we can turn that on. So when users log on, they'll be presented with a CAPTCHA to validate that they're an actual human being. At least that's the intent of that functionality. And then we can go to other account security here, and we can create account security profiles. These are either under the system domain or just specific to a partner. And by clicking the partner or the system domain, we can set up these rules. And when we click create, we can see what these are. Now we can give it a security rule. We just give it a name, any name we want here. We can set up idle timeouts for the session. We can do account lockouts. It'll lock out the account if they've had a failed attempt for some period of time. So in this case, we'll lock them out for 30 minutes after 6 failed authentication attempts. We can do password expiration, so we'll require people to change their passwords every so many days. We can have password reuse, where we can say they can't reuse the same password as the last anywhere from 1 through 6, so the default here is 4. We can do two-factor authentication, so using SMS. Setting up SMS is another thing that we're not going to really talk about here, but if you had an SMS server set up, you can require them log in, then receive a text, and then put in the code they receive in that text to authenticate their login. And then you can disable active accounts, so you can lock an admin account if they haven't been used over some period of time and that's specified in days. So these are all just ways of adding enhanced security to accessing your SmartZone network controller. So this concludes our presentation on the configuration of SmartZone network controller domains, subdomains, partner domains, and domain administration. We learned a little bit about the domains and the hierarchy in which they operate. We learned about the different administration options and the capabilities at those different levels of the domain hierarchy. And again, this is part of our demonstration series for the Ruckus Associate SmartZone Administrator for SmartZone OS 5. There are many other demonstrations in this series that will show you different management functions of SmartZone OS 5, so I encourage you to take a look at those. Hopefully this information was helpful to you today, and hope to see you back for more demonstrations in the future. Thank you.